everybody. Today I have a very special guest. His name is Guillaume Moubeche, and he's the founder and CEO of Lemlist. And Lemlist is an email outreach platform that allows you to send, automatic emails with personalized images and videos and many other features. So, welcome, Guillaume, and maybe you can share with us, first of all, what Lemlist is, and perhaps how did you get involved in this email outreach kind of industry?
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm super pleased to be here. So essentially, Lemlist, as you mentioned, is a SaaS platform. So an online platform that allows you to automate the sendings of emails, and we've added a lot of personalization to it in order to allow our users to get more replies. So before I actually started Lemlist, I had my own lead generation agency, a bit like you. and actually, I was testing all the tools in the market. So all the Reply, Mailcheck, Woodpecker, and so on. And I found out that some of the platforms were actually really buggy, and it was super annoying to use them. And the other part was I couldn't really push the personalization towards what I wanted to do. And what I was doing is basically doing this manually. Actually, I was not doing myself. I had hundreds of virtual assistants working in the background, creating images or doing personalized video for everyone. And then I was it's crazy. We should be able to automate that. And because the results were so great. So with what we've seen, when I had the agency, by adding personalized images or video, we could increase reply rate by 2 or 5 times, up to 5 times with video. It was really crazy. So then, I was at Station F, which is the biggest worldwide campus, where I met actually 2 tech geniuses. So those 2 guys were 2 brothers. They were around 40 years old, and they were former eFounders. I'm not sure if you're familiar with eFounders, but it's basically a startup studio that has been building companies like Aircall, Front, Mailjet, and so on. So really all the huge companies, all the huge SaaS from France, I mean, almost all of them come from this startup studio. So those guys were really, really good. And after kind of chatting, I kind of bring them with me on the project, and we decided to start Lemlist about a year and a half ago. The first line of code were January 2018.
Mm-hmm. And so who built that first version? Was it how did that look like? Did you have your own team, or did those 2 guys build it? Or
those 2 guys built it, and it was very lean. So essentially they're really good at tech, and they knows it. So they were okay, we're gonna build a beta in 2.5 weeks, and now find me users. So when I saw the beta, I was oh my god, it's the worst product ever, but I have to find some user. And it was not the worst. Everything was working, but the design was really crap. The UX was really bad. I mean, it's a lot of what can you expect? It's 2 weeks. So, and then we decided to launch on Product Hunt. So my goal with that launch was really to test the market super quickly, because obviously it's a super crowded market. It's the opposite of the blue ocean strategy. It's red ocean all the way. But the good thing, it's okay, the market fit, product market fit already exists, because there is all these tools. Drawbacks is obviously all the competitors. But once we launched on Product Hunt, it was really a good test, just to see if people were into that level of personalization, if they were kind of relying on use. And we end up number 1 product of the day once we launched. So we were super happy, and we had a really huge boost of user signups. So that was pretty much when we decided to say, okay, let's get serious on that project and keep working on it.
Mm-hmm. And so did you raise money, or was this self-funded?
Yes, so fully self-funded. So we actually have several SaaS projects. So we have Lemlist, which is the main one, and we also have 2 others. One is called Lempod, and the other one is called Talkus. So Talkus was kind of bringing a bit of money to help us just pay the server bills, which are super low for SaaS. And then basically we were in beta for about 2 to 3 months. Then we launched on AppSumo. So AppSumo is like a huge platform that allows to get software at a really low price for a lifetime deal. So it was like a huge opportunity for us to get like thousands of users all over the world and get money out of it. So we decided to launch with them, and it was like really, really crazy. We had like, I don't know how many thousand, but something like 5,000 or 6,000 users like buying Lemlist, coming to the platform, giving us like so much feedback. And from that, we decided to kind of redo entirely the experience, changing the UX, adapting the features. So that was really huge for us, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned you had the lead generation agency before. So how long have you been doing that lead generation? What were you actually doing? Were you just doing the same stuff like with cold email? Was that like a B2b lead generation agency, or what was that like?
Yeah, exactly. So essentially what we were selling is we're selling to people like meetings. So we're like, okay, if you want to get 10 meetings every month, here is our package. And we were defining with them their ICP, then getting the emails, sending the emails, doing all the copywriting. And basically they were getting like replies of people who wanted to meet them.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah, that sounds very similar to us. So very, very good. So maybe later on, because I noticed that you have some big brands on the platform. So are you focusing on getting like small businesses? Because I know there's like these enterprise tools like SalesLoft or Outreach, then there's this mid-market and like small, like Mailshare, you start getting like smaller customers. So like who are you targeting? Is it like small or mid-size or even enterprise level?
So that's actually like the toughest question, because for like our tool, obviously, as you said, can be used by small companies and freelancers up to really like enterprise and sales team. Mm-hmm. So I think like initially we started with startup and SMBs, and step by step, because the product is becoming like more and more advanced in terms of features, in terms of handling teams, and we see a lot of startups and scale up, mostly scale up actually, interested in using like Lemlist. We're moving towards something that's going to be a bit more complex. I mean, if you see like the product is I don't know, like 16 months old or something, so it's like still very young, and yeah, it's growing like super quickly for us. So essentially right now we're gonna start moving a bit like up market, not to enterprise level at the moment, even though we have some enterprise, but we do prefer working with let's say SMBs, but maybe like bigger SMBs than just like team of, I don't know, 2 or 3,
Mm-hmm. And so how many customers do you have right now on the platform?
So essentially like it depends if we count AppSumo or not. If we count AppSumo, it's like I think we're around like 10,000 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But the people who are paying on a monthly basis, it's around like 400 something company, 400 plus companies.
So they got like a lifetime deal, right?
Yeah.
AppSumo
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. Because I was kind of, I saw on your website, I think you mentioned like 8,000 plus users.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's quite a lot, because I know Woodpecker founder, they got like 2,000 and they've been around longer, right? So
yeah.
do that. So that's
definitely.
That's awesome. And I noticed your pricing, you have like 3 packages, right? So you have a free trial and then 3 packages. So how did you come up with the idea for this pricing model?
Yeah, so initially, actually, it was we're having like the classic penetration strategy, which is penetration pricing. You start kind of low and then you're gonna increase. So we actually we increased our price like I think it was 2 or 3 months ago, and it was like the best decision we've made, because we didn't see any decrease in number of customers like paying, which obviously make more money for us. And also it's like the product has been changing. Like the more we develop features on the product, the higher the price will get. We've also decided, to be honest, to align with some of our competitors, even though, because right now, I mean, the market is huge, but obviously lots of people doing cold emailing are looking for more efficient strategy, and the cost of changing is very low. I mean, it's super easy to switch from an email platform to another. So we want to make that choice even more easy for them. So I mean, we have a lot of people, coming from competitors, and saying like, okay, I mean, the price is the same. I'm going to test it at least. And when they start getting more replies, then, you know, like the switch is super easy for them because it's not an increase in pricing. It's just more value at the same price. So far that's our strategy, but I think, you know, like obviously in the coming months, because I mean, yeah, we're growing like, to give you an idea, we're growing like, on average, we've been growing at like 32% months over months on the MRR. And last month's growth, because obviously you could say, yeah, the early months, it's easy to grow fast, but last month or this month, we're at like 31% growth on the MRR. So it's like, it's growing like it's kind of exponential for us. And obviously at some point, you know, like we will be increasing prices a bit like everyone's doing, but the more complex your product is, the more value you can bring to the table. So obviously you need to reflect it in the pricing.
Yeah. So what's your churn rate? Do you have a lot of people churning? Because it's easy to switch. I mean, I know this, I tried all these platforms. So
yeah. So churn is, to be honest, it's really high because of the SMB market. So the more we go up market, the lower the churn is. So it depends on which type of segment and on how you calculate the churn. So the good thing is we have like, so you have two types of churn: gross MRR, which is basically like the churn on the MRR itself. And then you have the net MRR churn, you know, like combine like people expanding versus people churning. So the net MRR is actually the net MRR churn, sorry, is actually negative. So we have like a retention rate that's higher than 100%. And the gross MRR is a bit below 10%, but it's really high. Like we're focusing really on decreasing that. But we believe that, you know, it's also a matter of how your tool is integrated into multiple platforms. So we're bringing data, and then we're bringing like better integration to CRMs. So once you've locked your tool with data and CRM, people are less, you know, to leave. And another thing which I've learned, which actually I didn't know before, like chatting to guys who are like raising a lot of money, it's basically like sometimes, you know, when you're targeting SMB market, you should calculate your churn. So for example, you can say, I calculate my churn only with users who are staying more than X months. And X months can be like 2 to 3 months, because we actually have a lot of users, you know, who are like churning, and then they say, it's just that I don't have campaign, because we ask them for the reason all the time, like I don't have any more campaigns to run. And they say like, I'll be coming back in a few months, and they really come back, you know. It's just internally we call them the cheap bastards, you know. It's like, you don't want to pay for like a monthly recurring, so you just gotta like pay for a month, churn, then come back, pay, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if Woodpecker or somebody else, but they do that based on performance, because yeah, sometimes there are no campaigns running and I don't want to pay for something I'm not using. So I don't know, maybe that's something to look into. But do you have like a marketing background or sales or technical? What's your background?
Yeah, so essentially I'm a chemical engineer.
Oh,
So
okay.
that has nothing to do with that. And then I studied like marketing. So I have like 2 masters, one in chemical engineering and one in marketing.
Nice. That's a good combination. And so is this your first kind of software as a service product? Because you mentioned you have more, but when you transitioned from the agency to this was kind of your first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, first SaaS. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean, it's going pretty well, right? So is that the integrations with CRMs? What kind of CRMs are you trying to integrate with, or data providers maybe? Because your company is called Lemlist, and I think I've heard of it because, you know, it's not that old, but I've seen it somewhere like a year ago, and I thought like, oh, this is like a list provider or something. Like you provide data, right? And then it's not true. So do you have integrations with those data guys and with the CRMs?
Yeah, so right now we're adding like data enrichment tools to Lemlist. So that way you can only bring, so it will be like list verifier and data enrichment. So you could have like a first name, last name company, and they will find emails and clean it and verify. We also have like integration with databases such as LeadFuse.
Mm-hmm.
I think the guys from Uplead also want to connect, because I mean, for data providers, it's on their end to push the data to us. So it's not kind of our work. We have an open API so they can kind of manage themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We have also like another integration with a list cleaning, which it's called Bouncer. And then for CRM, we are like fully integrated with Pipedrive, like really advanced and bi-directional integration. And for the other, like HubSpot, Salesforce, and so on, we have either like a very basic integration via like BCC or something more advanced via Zapier or our API. But this is typically like the type of things we need to work on, like Salesforce and HubSpot. We need to be like fully integrated. So it's basically just a one click and you decide what triggers you want. And so far that's not the case, but that's definitely on the roadmap. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I think the data, maybe even having your own data like provider, because I think Sujan from Mailshake, he owns Vala Norbert as well, which is doing that. So it's pretty good for him there. And he doesn't even offer free trial. He has like, you have to just pay or so,
yeah, that's definitely smart, because we know for sure that people, you know, are lacking data or something, like whenever they join Lemlist and they're like, oh yeah, shit, I forgot my list. How I'm going to find that? And yeah.
So how do you usually acquire customers now? Besides AppSumo, what's your kind of model?
So we use a lot of Lemlist, obviously. So I do a lot of email outreach.
Yeah.
So that's one way. I run a lot of experiments. When they work really well, I create like use case around them, which is really a good way, you know, to get some good content, because it's step by step on how to manage to create like campaigns that get more results. Then based on this content, I repurpose it mostly on like social networks, like communities, Facebook communities, Slack communities, LinkedIn. So it's kind of like a circle where everything is around like providing value and content while running experiments at the same time to acquire new customers. So that's like, I think the big chunk of what we do. And then we've started doing a bit of ads. And right now I'm more in the phase where I'm analyzing. We're pretty good, but then, you know, it's a matter of scaling, because we didn't really spend a lot. So.
Right. And so what would you say, how are you different from other providers like this, like other tools that are on the market? What's kind of special about Lemlist? Because most of them are similar, so.
For us, it's really the level of personalization you can add. So that's like the huge point. Like basically, our value proposition is you will get more replies to Lemlist. So on the technical side of it, we really have like our own sending algorithm, which really helps improving the deliverability. We also have unique features to keep your emails warm. So as I said, you know, we have like around, I think it's more than 8,000 companies. And so in terms of user, like more than 10,000. So essentially you have a feature in Lemlist that allow you, which is called email warm-up. And what we do is we automatically send between Lemlisters, which is essentially a Lemlist user. We automatically send to people emails with uniquely generated content made by like some sort of intelligence. And essentially we do like sending and replies, which keep your mailbox active. And essentially it sounds like it gives like very good signals that your email is warm and that you're like really like getting replies to what you're sending. And essentially it gives you a little boost in deliverability. We also have like features that actually, you know, it's like those little things that couldn't be possible if you didn't have that many users. So AppSumo was really good for that. And also like all the growth we had after, because now, you know, it's like, as I said, you know, with more than 10,000 people all over the world, it's really, really good, because we can send from different location emails, then replies, which give like really high signal of better deliverability. And then we also have like these things which is called email health, allowing you to check like all the day you've been sending emails, where did you have a lot of bounce, replies, and so on. We give like score, like a health score, but no one does that. Then the platform is also like super easy to use. And yeah, again, like personalization that you can really push to a new level.
I think for people who are not understanding, what do you mean by this sending and replying? Because many people don't understand this.
Okay.
So just to give some context, basically before any outreach campaign, usually you need a new email address, or if you want to run like a full outbound campaign. And this is such a pain in the ass. I mean, I've been using so many VAs. I hate this. And basically, no other tool does this. And I checked out Lemlist. I was like really blown away. Like, damn, like this is really hard to figure out. So because I know this can only be figured out by somebody who's done it, like this email stuff, right? And because
this, the pain.
this is such a, it takes weeks, and it's you need basically you need to warm up your email address before the outreach by sending manual emails. It's such a pain in the ass. So yeah, this is so cool, and I've haven't seen this at all, and I don't think it's really easy to copy. So that's definitely cool. And about deliverability, I wanted to ask you about domains, because my latest kind of research tells me that you need a new domain and an email address. And we had cases where we basically just had 0% open rate, even if we had like a month-old domain. And then we asked around, and they told us like, oh, you guys need at least 3 to 4 month-old domain. So is that also part of it? Like, because many people come to the platform, they're like, I need a new domain. And I'm like, oh, you need to wait 3 or 4 months. Oh, shit. So then what we found works best is just using the original domain for that initial period and then switching to that. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on this? This might be kind of advanced for somebody listening, but just this is a deliverability is a big issue. So
yeah, deliverability is like a huge issue, as you mentioned. I think it's very tough because it's not only the age of the domain. Like, for example, we've run like really like hundreds of tests where we're buying domains and blasting emails, and with some domains we had absolutely no issue. Like, all the emails were delivered, open, and so on. And with others, we were getting blocked like straight away. So the thing is, like, I think if you're doing things correctly, like trying to personalize as much as possible, you're not sending like really like high volume of spams, you're spreading your emails and so on. And you've set up like so SPF, DKIM, and also like setting up your own custom domain. So to make it super simple for listeners, SPF on DKIM, it's like kind of the ID of your domain. It just shows that there were a human setting up like and creating an ID for it, and that the domain is essentially verified by a human. So whenever you're sending, it's like you have your ID, okay, you can go. And then like the CNAME and tracking domain is basically saying that you're using the same domain to track opens and clicks than the one you're using to send emails. So if you're doing things correctly, essentially, I think that using your own domain is not an issue. Like, for example, I always use lemlist.com to do my email outreach, but I personalize my emails. I don't spam people. I try to always like bring value, make it about them, not about me, and so on. And I never had any issue. Like, obviously, for some companies, so we have like scale-ups who are sending like like they go from a team of 10 salespeople to 100, so they need like sending a volume that is like really, really high. Then for them, like obviously they don't want their main domain to be blacklisted because they're using it for all of the other things. So for them, it's essential that they use like like a subdomain. But again, so Zendesk is part of our customers, and they don't use a subdomain. It's like they have a domain that has been here for a long time. They personalize the message, they do things well, and they have like zero issues. They have like the highest deliverability as possible. So it's not that a typical answer where you can say yes or no, black or white. It really depends. But the way you've been doing it, I think it's pretty the right way.
I think, yeah. I mean, the older domain is, the better sometimes. Until it's, I mean, obviously, if it's not destroyed, but. Yeah, we found this is kind of the setup we run now, where for 2 months we run it from the original domain, then we switch to that one, which is already warmed up by that point or something.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good idea also, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is a big issue. So what in your opinion affects the open rate, except all these things like these protocols and these ID and all that? The level of personalization you've mentioned multiple times, and that's images and videos to you. To me, we don't really do that because we try to, what our customization is, we write fully custom paragraphs. So like the opening paragraph is fully custom, and then body of the email and then call to action. So what are your, I had people here who like images in email, who don't like. So like, what's your thought on how are you adding those images there? Because I know that you had to, sometimes you need to add a pixel and that decreases your deliverability maybe. So how do you handle that process?
Yeah. So essentially, like the way the images are inserted, it's not like as if it was like how do you call that, an attachment. It's not an attachment inside the email. It's we have like our own system. Basically, it's a bit like technical, but essentially like the image would be like hard coded inside the email. Actually, all the tests we've done, but also all the tests that other like partners and newsletter guys and people sending like tens of millions of emails have done, it seems that like images don't decrease deliverability. And obviously, like for me saying that could be like, yeah, you know, like obviously he's the one putting images in these emails, so he's not gonna say that, but it's the truth. Like you can do tests. Like for example, we have like an automatic way of sending messages to people. So we're sending messages to people that have never heard of us, that don't know us, and so on. And we have an open rate on these campaigns that is like at 99%. So and those are advanced personalized images that contains a link, because it's like a video essentially. And this is supposedly from the articles that you've seen, the worst thing to do. Like having an image and a link is like supposedly like super bad, but actually for us it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't have any impact on the deliverability. I think like there are so much factors that have a much higher impact that it is like, yeah, very little. And for me it's more about like, okay, what's your complaint rate? Have your domain been blacklisted? How much emails do you send? Is your volume consistent? You know, are you sending from 0 to 500 one a day to another, or is it more like, yeah, scaling like 50 emails per day, then 100, and then all those things matters, you know, and they matters much more than whether or not you're tracking, or, and even the testers, you know, like that already exist are not that accurate. It's kind of old technology that was maybe right like 10 years ago, but now if you look at the way all the mailers want to go, you'll see that it's images and video are kind of the future, you know.
Right. And so what's basically, you send out an email, there's an image, right? And it's personalized to that recipient. What do you say in that image or video? Because you pre-record a video basically that can be sent to everybody, and in an email you personalize it like, hey John, click here or something. So what do you say that in that frame?
So actually inside the image you can do many things. You can add like variables such as the first name of the person that will be replaced automatically, the logo of the company that is automatically taken based on the email address. Same for a website screenshot. So you could take a photo, for example, of you pointed at a blank screen and then add on the blank screen the screenshot. And then you'll be saying, we're doing a presentation about the top B2b websites. Here is a photo of what we did, and then they see you know, next to the website. And we've analyzed all the things that could be improved with our checklist on the website. We've seen that call to action was not that clear. You should arrange blah, blah, blah. You give like 3 things that are personalized, and then you say, call to action could be, would you be free to have a chat next week to chat about it? And you brought value. You have a personalized image that shows that you were actually doing something, even though it's not always true. And then, you know, like you get more replies because like you've been bringing value. It makes sense. They saw your face as a real human being. For the video, it's actually like you have a personalized frame inside the email. Sorry. You have a personalized frame. And then when they click, they would go onto like a personalized landing page. And this is also with Lemlist. The goal with video, and what's like really huge and why it's working so well, is that people, whenever they see like a play button inside an email, the click rate is between 40 to 80%. Like really, we've analyzed all the people who have done that. It's between 40 to 80%. Can you imagine having like 40 to 80% of people going to a personalized landing page? It's like huge in sales, because first what they're going to see, it's like the video, then they will get like the personalized message, and below we can make integration with pretty much anything. So we have several verticals, but for sales, it would be easily like the Calendly or any calendar integration they're using. So they'll be like chatting and then saying, book a meeting with me below, and then the meeting will be booked.
So that can be kind of double thing, right? Because somebody clicks, watches a video, but they leave the email to watch the video on your landing page, and then they don't really respond to an email, right? Maybe they just stay on that landing page, and then they have to become a lead there somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
You've pushed them there, right? You're not trying to get a response when you're sending them to some other place.
Yeah, exactly. In some cases, it's just like people trying to book meetings. Like we have actually a very good success story with Zendesk where they did that, and they booked like actually the guy, they didn't know, like it was, for them, it was a very difficult target to get. So they were like, hey, Guillaume, like let's try a campaign where essentially we're going to try to get those leads to book meetings. And they were like, yeah, they never replied to any of our email. So I was like, man, that sounds a bit complicated, you know? And so we created this landing page for them initially before actually putting this as a proper SaaS inside Lemlist. Mm-hmm. So we created like personalized landing page with their Calendly integration. And after like a few emails sent, all the meetings were already booked for that specific day where they were in a specific location. So they ask us like, can you put like another Calendly inside because there are no meeting left, and people like are messaging, you know. So I was like, okay, that's pretty good. They booked like 30 meetings in one campaign, which for them was really huge, you know.
So that's when you attend a conference and you want to kind of like have a full schedule. So you
exactly. For them it was that exact use case. But you can do it in many, like you could do it, you know, like right now what they're doing is they're contacting like we have different use case with them, but you have like the sales who are trying to book meetings and they're using the exact same landing page. And this is just like Skype or call or they use Zoom, but yeah. And then, you know, it's like other things, which is for upsell. So your existing customers and you want to show them like what has been changing, what features they could get, how they could achieve better results, and the same.
Yeah, so basically that's a good system since you don't have to go back and forth. They just book a meeting on the Calendly, on the landing page. Pretty solid. This can have a really good implication if you're selling SEO, because you can actually have a picture of the website and say, hey, I've done an audit. Here are 3 things. You need to customize the 3 things, and then the frame
definitely.
That's kind of push them into the landing page. They book a meeting. I think I can see that with SEO really well. Mm-hmm. If somebody's selling that, you should try Lemlist probably. And okay, so what about EU, like GDPR stuff? So what do you do like in European campaigns? I always ask these questions. So like, what's your opinion on this GDPR? And because I still think everybody's just sending emails everywhere. Yeah. But I mean, technically speaking, it's not correct. So what are your thoughts on this?
So essentially, like to me, I think there is a huge difference between B2b and B2c. So GDPR, what this states is if you have a legitimate interest to reach out to someone, then you're allowed to do it. The way the data is, it's not the problem of reaching out, it's more the way you gather the data. We're not data providers, so that doesn't really apply to us. But essentially what we've done is all our servers are based in France. We have like a policy around GDPR, which essentially means that if someone contacts us and want to be like deleted from everything, like it can be deleted, like there would be no issue, like it would be done within a certain amount of weeks. Like we have all our procedure around that to make it like fully compliant. The only thing I can say after like a bit more than a year than GDPR has been around is that in my humble opinion, no one will ever be fined for sending a cold email. Like seriously, because it's so difficult. Like, would you go in front of a judge and say like, yeah, I reached out because I wanted to do business, you know, like, and then the guy will be saying like, yeah, but yeah, I mean, they have like much bigger issue to deal with. They have like Google stealing data of millions of customers, like Facebook with all the data breaches. They were like a social media platform in Germany who have like a reach of more than 20 million of its users. It's not about B2B, you know, it's like B2B is in essence, it's like business. If you want to build relationship with people, I mean, you have to do what you have to do, you know, and sending emails is a really great way to do it. Some people might get scared about this. And you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you're scared, it's fine. Don't do it. You know, like there is more room for the one who are doing it. And then, you know, like the market is less crowded with emails and you can get more customers that way, you know. So
Yeah, I
me,
mean, this is a tricky question, right? Because I think the question is also like, what about that first touch? We had cases where somebody said like, hey, what is this? I'm an EU citizen and I want, you know, not just data deleted, but like all these questions. I'm like, come on, man, like you're another founder. Like, why are you doing this? So like, I can see this, like I can see 99.9% of people are cool, but there's this crazy minority.
yeah. I think you know, what you can do is either like you take screenshot of the crazy one and you put them, you know, on a Slack channel and just have fun about it. Like some people are just having a bad day and sometimes, you know, like they'll get super angry because of a message they received out of nowhere. We don't know their life, you know, maybe their wife has been cheating on them. Maybe like the baby is crying a lot at night or whatever, you know, like some people, you know, they just like to get their nerves, you know, on others. And I mean, that's life, you know, it could happen at a meeting. It could happen like pretty much anywhere. So for me, it's just like, yeah, you know, it's fine.
But we are not lawyers, so don't listen to us. Yeah, I think, what are your thoughts on LinkedIn? Do you ever think they will open the API for you guys and so that you can have some integration or something?
No, I don't think so. It's like, I think LinkedIn is a very close platform and yeah, it's tough because I mean I don't think they will like really open API to anyone. I mean their API has been like restricted a lot, and now that they've been bought by Microsoft like a few years back, you know, it's gonna be worse a bit like yeah. So I don't know, you know, yeah.
It's just that, you know, outreach like LinkedIn is super important for us as well. And it's a combination, right? You send an email, you add them on LinkedIn, and like you have to do this manually, which I mean, there are some phantom busters and all these tools or whatever, duck soup, but it's not enough. So I think LinkedIn is not going to open that, but that would be a game changer, definitely. They did. Yeah. Cool. So maybe I can ask you just a few more questions about like some other stuff. So who's your favorite kind of entrepreneur? Do you have somebody?
Wow, that's a tough question. I like actually Steli Hefty from Outreach. I mean, he's
from Outreach. He's from Close.io. Right?
Close.io. Sorry.
I had him on the podcast like a few weeks ago.
Nice. I like him because, you know, he's like a foreign entrepreneur, like with a foreign accent, and he's really like killing it in the US. He's also like bootstrapped, so that's pretty nice. I mean, it's yeah,
they are gonna compete with Pipedrive now, so it's crazy. Like he's really doing well. So do you have any latest book you would recommend to somebody? Have you read anything or something like that?
Yeah, something I like is I mean, I really like also Dan Ariely. So it's like basically like psychology. I think the name of the book is it's behavioral psychology, and what's the name of the book again? Yeah, I can give it to you later. I forgot about that, but it's a really good book, you know, on what shapes our decision. I think it's Predictably Irrational from Dan Ariely. Like this one was good. I mean, I like everything, you know, that explains like why we're making decision, the way we compare things all the time. How do you put value? Because pricing is something that everything around pricing is underrated. I think every software company is underselling its product or service, but everyone's fine with it.
Right. And so besides Lemlist, do you have any favorite app that you use in your daily life?
I really like, I mean, I'm in love with Slack because we have like Talkers that is integrated. Slack is like so nice. I love Notion. Notion.so is really like one of my favorite apps because you can do pretty much everything. It's like a Trello, to-do list, board, like everything you can imagine. You have like the way you frame it. We can put content in it. You can put like growth experiments. You can have different views, switch from everything. Like it's huge. Like it giving like basically like saving a lot of time between switching tools and so on. So I really enjoy it. Google Analytics, obviously. I mean, Google Analytics, it's you know, it's one of these free tools that is so much underrated, because you can do pretty much anything you want in it. But obviously, like the interface is sometimes a pain, because you need to find from other places, like combine and everything. But once set up correctly, it's really cool. Obviously, like Stripe, otherwise we wouldn't have any paid customers. and yeah, to track MRR, Profitwell is really good.
Can you use Stripe in EU? Because I think there's some restriction on that.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
we have everything secure then. Yeah.
So what are you most excited about this email outreach kind of space in the future? Or like Lemlist, where do you see Lemlist going in like 2 years? And like what's happening to this entire space? Do you think like there's going to be more of these companies like you coming up each year? Or, you know, what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's a tricky question. I think like so far, you know, we're building like a strong community, which no one has been doing that ever. Like we have the biggest community around email outreach. It's called the Email Outreach Family. And the
it's
thing
on
is,
Facebook,
like,
right? Or...
Yeah, it's on Facebook. Yeah. And the thing is, like, I feel like people are not sharing enough with each other. The fact that we're able, you know, to have that many people sharing, exchanging tips, exchanges best practice and so on is really key. So what we're aiming is to really like building something huge around that and bring even more value. Regarding the product itself, a lot of cool changes are coming. I can't really tell a lot about it, but essentially, yeah, it's gonna be huge in terms of personalization. And the thing is, like most products and most services, their aim, you know, is to build business that make money, and that is pretty much like, yeah, fixing bugs and keeping it at flow, you know. And what I believe is like our goal is to really make our user like the most successful possible. And I'm not sure that's the goal of every other platform out there, like most of our competitors. They really try to make money, which is, I mean, good. Everyone's doing it. They're bringing value. But for us, it's really like going one step further and making everything, which is, I mean, everything we can, so that our users can get more replies and more deals booked, you know. So we're very close with all our users. We're working with like the biggest scale up in Europe and in the US, very closely to them, adapting like what we can do based on how sales is evolving. And I think that since we're very agile in terms of products, I'm sure we're gonna go like in the right direction and really like improve all the aspects of outreach.
Are you mostly used by sales reps or even like freelancers or like content? Let's say somebody wants to promote content, like who uses it mostly?
We have like 4 verticals. So we have, I would say, I mean, even more, but we have like a sales team, as you mentioned. Then we have like entrepreneurs, freelancers, and so on. Then we have people who have like agencies. We actually have quite a lot of agencies, and that's why we're going to actually add a few things in Lemlist to make it easier for agencies to use it and manage like multiple clients. And then we have people doing HR, so like sourcing. So whenever you want to source for candidates, you want to send them like highly personalized message, so you're sure to get replies, because obviously when you're sourcing candidates, I mean, it's key, you know, to get a reply and get a meeting. I mean, the hiring industry is huge, and those guys are really like really top when it comes to personalization. And I think it's funny because sourcing and sales, to me, it's exactly the same. Whereas in sales, people are just saying like, there are so many prospects, I can just blast everyone. Whereas in HR, people are more, yeah, like I'm gonna pick, you know, like the very right person, spend time and so on. And some salespeople are doing that as well, which is like huge. And I think we're going towards that era anyway.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Yeah, I have over 200 videos on YouTube about cold email. If you just type in cold email in YouTube, you will see me. So
nice.
add me to your community. I think I joined your Facebook community like a few days ago. But
nice. Awesome.
I have a last question. So imagine you basically got like a check from the government, and you owe them all the money. Like they will take everything from you. Lemlist, everything is done. And so you have one friend who's a tech founder, and he has never been in sales or marketing. So, but he has this meeting tomorrow where if he sells his solution to this company, he'll give you 50% commission on the deal, which will help you repay your debt. So you have one day to teach this guy who's a tech founder something about B2B sales, something you learned in the years you've been doing this. So what would be like your top 3 things you would tell this person who hasn't been in, maybe he's an IT guy, he's very like shy or something, but what would you tell him to do in that meeting?
So essentially, I think like if you've never done sales, it's okay. I mean, it's nothing like sales is about building relationship. So I would advise, first advice was ask as many questions as possible. So the question you ask will allow you to really understand the pain points of the person. Second part is ask more questions and ask to rephrase. So basically, if someone's telling you like, yeah, I don't have enough replies to my emails, then you will be saying like, okay, so you're telling me that maybe your copywriting or the tool you're using is not allowing you to get more replies. Am I right? And by doing so, you know, the person feels like is being understood. And you can also get more information by adding some assumption to it. And finally is don't be afraid to really like ask for the sale. Like, what are the next steps? You know, like how can we proceed to make this agreement work? Because call to action is really important and most people forget about it. And in the end, you know, it's like some people, they need to be guided towards the sales and they're like, okay, fine. I mean, it's a smooth process. If the person has been understood, if he trusts you and believes that you can bring value, then the sale becomes like super easy. You know, it's just like following the flow, you know.
That makes sense. So thank you very much for stopping by. Where can people check you out? Where do you hang out most online?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, Facebook. So on the email outreach family, LinkedIn is Guillaume Lemlist. You will find me, and email guillaume@lemlist.com if you want to reach out. That's all good.
Yeah, we'll have show notes, so we'll definitely do that. But thank you very much for stopping by. You shared a lot, so thanks. And yeah, go check out Lemlist, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.